Hi, my name is Graham Kay, and I would put a hockey fight into my Immigrant jam.
Welcome back to another beautiful episode of Immigrant Jam, the podcast. I'm your host, Lucie. We are back on a beautiful day in New York City with one of the funniest people to ever have walked this land. Yes, it's true. He comes from Canada, eh? He has a new special out called Live in a Bowling Alley. You've seen him on Fallon and Colbert. He is amazing, delicious, nutritious, so fucking funny. Please welcome the amazing Mr. Graham Kay.
Hey, thank you. That's a great intro. I feel good about myself. Thank you very much.
Thank you for being on the podcast, Graham.
Thanks for having me. I can't wait to talk about my culture, which I'm not sure we have.
Yes, I love it. We'll talk about the lack of Canadian culture for 3 hours. Don't move. You're from Ottawa.
That's right.
Canada.
Also, lack of culture.
Really? What's it like there?
Ottawa is the capital of Canada, and either Montreal or Toronto should have been the capital, but one is French, one is English, so you can't choose either or there'll be a big fight.
Yeah, hockey fight?
It was before hockey, so it would have taken place on ice at some point.
Well,
so
ice hockey, though.
That's right. The fight might have happened on ice with muskets, but also, anyway, the thing is so the Queen of England was like, we'll just choose this logging village in the middle, right on the border between where French and English Canada is. So it doesn't deserve to be a city. It wouldn't have been a city unless the Queen of England pointed to it on a map. So what that means is everyone who lives there works for the government. And so they're very nice, educated, boring people with no dreams.
Yeah, of course.
That is everybody.
Yeah.
Truly everybody.
Even the babies.
Even the babies, after about 3 years, they lose their soul. And people are very nice. And it's like
so
clean.
The stereotype is true then.
For
That's
Ottawa,
like a
especially.
quintessential Canadian place.
Yeah. It's ironically has become the quintessential Canadian place. Yeah.
Interesting.
There is nobody goes out partying after the age of 24. There's like 2 bars downtown if you're over the age of like 25 where you can hang out and not feel like you're 100 years old. Wow. Nobody goes to dinner with friends. People only go to dinner as a couple. Every restaurant is just pairs of two tops. And that's where I'm from. And as soon as I turned 14, like when you start to develop a personality, you either want to move to Toronto or Montreal, and I wanted to be a Montreal person. I was like, there was like a cool music scene in Montreal. Montreal has so much culture. It's like French. It's kind of like has a lot of Berlin vibes because you can live there for all my friends who moved to Montreal in their 20s. I'd be like, what do you do? No one had a job. They all had tremendous apartments. They lived for like $300. They were in bands.
That is Berlin vibes.
Yeah.
Cokeheads.
They all dressed so cool.
Okay, that's not Berlin vibes. Then.
Oh no, yeah. I went people, and everyone is like very hot in Montreal. There's like a lot of hot people. And I just remember going there on a hockey trip, just walking down the street as like a 15-year-old with my like Ottawa apparel. You know, like I don't know.
It was like a suit and a tie,
like a Gap sweatshirt, and like jeans, like ill-fitting jeans, and like basketball shoes. And I just remember being like, I am underdressed. Everyone here looks so cool. And it's not like forced. It's like, I will put this hat on. And maybe I'll grab this scarf and throw it on. And this shirt. I don't know what accent that is. But there was an Iranian man in Montreal.
But he was very cool.
Yeah, he was so
stylish.
cool. And it just doesn't look forced. It doesn't like a lot of people, like when I lived in LA, everyone's like, this is a specific scarf I'm going to wear with my giant brimmed hat. And
That's
it
true.
looks like they looked in the mirror and like looked at an Instagram photo of somebody they wanted to look like and got the same thing.
Yeah, and counted all the beads on their bracelets.
Montreal is like authentic. And I just was like, oh my God, I've always wanted to live there. And I've always wanted to be 25 and in Montreal. And it never happened, and I can't go
and
there.
You still want to be 25 in Montreal.
Yeah, I don't want to be 25 in New York. I want to be my age in New York, but I want to be a 25-year-old in Montreal in like the early 2000s.
So it never happened?
Listening to like Arcade Fire. Just like, it never happened, no.
Do you speak French?
I speak a little bit. Like I understand what people are saying. I can have a conversation. But I when people speak very quickly, it's tough for me. I went to France and I made French friends. Like I went on vacation myself, like a weirdo. And when they were like talking to me, I could understand. But when they would hang out with their buddies, I remember I went to like some after party, like a restaurant. I went to a restaurant and then I made friends with the staff there, and then they'd come back the next night and they like shut down the restaurant. They had like a cool person party. Yeah. What?
An hangout.
An hangout. Yeah. And I literally, I just sat at the end of the table and was like, oh, this is what it feels like. Oh yeah. To be like a real immigrant.
Ah, okay.
I'm like a halfie.
Yeah, I was going to ask. So, but okay, here that's true. And your parents?
My mother is a refugee from former Czechoslovakia. And my both of his parents were from Scotland.
Scotland?
Yeah.
And so where is this crazy story with your grandfather who hid Jews and traded Piccasos for things?
Yeah. So
that's your mom's side of the family?
Yeah. So I have a joke about that, like how it's my brother has autism, so it's like all up to me to carry on the family line, and like everyone kept having kids throughout caveman times till now, and my grandfather survived hiding Jewish people. His partner in his law firm was Jewish and his best friend, and the SS stormed through the door one day of their office. They shared like a big oak table, grabbed him, his best friend who was Jewish, and pulled him out. And as he was leaving, my grandfather's name was Ladislas. He goes, Lucie, please take care of my family. I don't know what they're gonna do to me. And there was already rumors of like death camps, but nobody really knew.
This was when, 1930s
no,
or 40s?
This is
already?
the 40s. So
okay.
Czechoslovakia was taken over in like 1940, 40, maybe 40, 41. I can't remember. But then people didn't really, there was no concrete evidence of death camps until after the war, until the Allies found them. So there was rumors, but people didn't come back to spread the rumors. So it was like, I don't know, they're not.
Yeah.
I'm not getting any letters here.
Getting any first-hand evidence.
Yeah. I'm not getting any letters from my aunt and uncle. I think they're dead. And so my grandfather hid the family, and then he helped them.
Hid his best friend's family.
Best friend's family. He kept them. He helped them get documentation that said otherwise, that they weren't Jewish, and helped them go west, I think, to Spain, which was a neutral fascist country. Anyway, so they. He got caught because he started helping other Jewish people, and the net got too big, and luckily the SS, which is the death squad of the Nazis, brought him to a local Prague police jail cell because I don't know why, it was closer or whatever. Maybe theirs was full. And they slit the back of his neck. He had a big scar on the back of his neck. And then they said, we're going to file paperwork to prove that you did this, because my grandfather was a person of standing in Prague at the time.
What did he do? What
he was just he was a high profile lawyer.
Oh, a lawyer, okay.
Yeah. So his best friend was a partner in a law firm with him. And the Jewish guy who got killed. And so they went to go, prove their case, file paperwork, and they were going to come back the next. They said, in the morning, we're going to slit the front.
Wow. I was just about to ask, why? Was it just torture? But okay, that's
a bit of both.
Fucking.
And then my grandma was like, so they pulled him out of bed in the middle of the night, and left my grandma there. They burst down the door, and then my grandma went grabbed up all her jewelry, like silverware, like that was made of silver. You know, she was the dean of a private boys' school, so they both had some money. They had no kids at this point. And she went to every jail in Prague until she found him.
Wow.
And luckily, it was local Prague police. It wasn't the SS. And so they were police before the war. They're not fanatics. They're not SS Nazi fanatics. Right. They speak Czechoslovakian. So they're like, yeah, fuck these guys. And they took the money. And, you know, my grandpa escaped, let him loose. And my grandma and grandpa went underground and fought in the resistance. And like, they, after the war, they went to the south of France. My grandpa got a job as the head of the Czechoslovak consulate in Marseille, France. And my mother was born there. And they had like a villa on the beach, on the French Riviera. They didn't know how to drive, so they had a driver. I forget. My grandparents would always talk about the drive. They missed him so much. He was like part of the family. And my grandfather, I think he was gay, and he would leave he would give money to all these artists, help support them. He's a patron of the arts. He would leave for like 2 weeks at a time and just come back and was like, I was with the artists. Sorry and like he didn't marry my grandma until very late in life. Like the town they were from, he was like the last single man, and she was the last single woman, and they were like, you have to marry her.
Holy shit.
And so I don't think you could be gay back then. They're from the Slovakia
sure
side.
That it wasn't.
Yeah.
Cool.
And so in rural Slovakia in the 20s, 30s. So anyway, so this is after the war now. This is like 1950. So the communists take over Czechoslovakia, and my grandfather was a very staunch nationalist. And again, he's part of the Czechoslovak consulate in Marseille, France, and he's very vocal that Czechoslovakia should be its own country. It shouldn't be behind the Iron Curtain. They should look west. And the Russians didn't like that. And, you know, everyone who held his views were killed, like all of his buddies, all of his like drinking buddies were killed, and they cut off his money. And they were like, come back to Prague. We want to talk to you. And he was like, nope. And they lost the driver, couldn't afford him. The driver stayed for like, a few more months just to help them because he loved them, but, they couldn't afford him. And then they were selling art to live because my grandfather had supported so many artists that they had given him paintings. So he would sell this art and then the art started to run out. And so what they did is he sold a Picasso ceramic bowl for a boat ride to Canada with all of their, whatever they had, clothes, some silverware, and a bunch of art. And they landed in Montreal, which is a cool city. And my grandpa was like, you know where the action is? The capital. And so they went.
All this adventure. Yeah. I need some.
In every country, one thing I know, the action is in the capital. And so they went to Montreal. And
was there a reason they went to Canada? Did they know somebody there? Did they have family, or was it just because that was the opportunity they had to get out?
I guess it was the opportunity they had. I think they didn't really know anybody.
And they spoke French at this point, obviously.
Well, yeah, really good French. My mother didn't speak English. She only spoke French. My mother's earliest memory is in Ellis Island because like they were in New York Harbor was like the first stop, and there was snow coming down with the Empire State Building in the background, and she goes, "Regarde, maman, sucre, sucre," like, look, sugar, sugar. And
right, because she was in the south of France. She'd never seen snow. Of course.
Snow.
How old was she?
4.
Wow.
Yeah. And then they went to Ottawa, which in the 50s, like this is 1952, would have been the like coldest, least action.
Shit.
And they lived.
Maybe that's what they wanted. They had so much action. Maybe they were looking for the most boring place on earth.
Maybe. Safe, boring.
Yeah.
They wouldn't accept any of his accreditation, or my grandma's either. So they're like 42 at this point, maybe 40. And they had to start literally from the bottom. They lived in a 1-bedroom basement apartment in a Jewish neighborhood in Ottawa, Sandy Hill. And my mother grew up around Jewish kids, so she speaks like with like a bit of like a tenement accent. It's very funny.
Does she have an accent in English, or you mean like
she
just
speaks
that,
like a Canadian,
okay.
but like certain word, like there are there is a cross-continental Jewish accent.
Oh yeah, of course.
That my mother is somehow a part of.
Yeah.
You know, she'll be like, turn down the stereo. I'm like, the stereo? She's always calling, like, saying there's schmutz on my face. I'm like, schmutz? And so, anyway, they grew up in a 1-bedroom basement. My mom grew up in a 1-bedroom basement apartment, and they were living in a villa, like, 2 months before that. And they got a job. The first job was being janitors. My grandpa was a janitor in a museum, and my grandma was a janitor in the rich neighborhood in Ottawa, where all like the foreign dignitaries lived, and like the prime minister lives, and all like, it's called Rockcliffe. And she would ride the bus wearing like a mink coat, and then scrub toilets wearing like a mink, like whatever, like the fanciest clothes of the day. Because that's all she had was like rich people clothes. And then my grandpa got a job. He got like the quickest degree he could find, which was like a librarian degree. And he got a job with the government being like working in like the National Library. And they bought like a little bungalow, like a 2-bedroom bungalow. And my mom became the driver.
But you knew they were still alive when you were born, right?
Yeah,
you knew they're still alive now? I don't know.
No, they died when my grandpa died when I was like 8, and my grandma died when I was like 25, maybe.
And they had thick accents, right? Of course, in English.
Yeah.
So you grew up with immigrant grandparents.
Yeah. They couldn't. Graham. They couldn't say my name. Yeah. My brother has autism, and they'd be like, and his name's Peter. He'd be like, my grandma was like, Peter is the breaker. Graham is the fixer.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And and you said your grandpa told you these stories, right? And talked about them?
My mom did.
Okay,
I was a little boy at the time. I just saw, all I remember is my grandpa would like take me to the YMCA, and we'd go swimming, and he'd buy me Jell-O, and I had a friend at the YMCA I go swimming with, a Japanese kid named Tayo, and he'd always be like, what a country. Look at this guy. Swimming with a Japanese. He wouldn't say like Japanese or whatever he said.
Yeah.
He and then we'd watch wrestling. He's this is a guy who knew 8 languages.
Yeah.
I would go on Sundays. My parents would have date night, and I'd sleep over. And on Saturday and on Sunday mornings, my grandpa and I would watch wrestling.
I love it.
He just loved it. He thought it was so funny.
But that when we moved here, I was 8 when we moved here, and I'll never forget. I didn't want to, and I'll never forget. My dad was like, "It'll be amazing. You'll go to an because I went to an international school. You'll go to an international school, and you'll marry a Nigerian prince." You know what I mean? Like it blew their mind. Like people forget, especially if you're not from America or North America, that like these places, especially in Europe, like they're not that diverse usually. Now they're getting more diverse, but in that time, like your grandpa being mind blown at swimming with a Japanese boy. That's crazy for them, And
my neighborhood is like very like my high school was like less than half white. On my block growing up, there was like a Nigerian family, and my grandpa was like...
that's where the Nigerian prince was.
Yeah.
Not in my fucking high school.
They were not, yeah. I don't think they were, but yeah.
So did you like identify as like being Czech or was that something for you growing up that you had?
I thought a little bit. I mean, I like when I was 13, we went back, and it was like we went to like the villages, and like everyone's like, oh my God, they're back, or my grandma and my mom. It was like a big deal for everybody.
That was the first time they went back after all those years?
Yeah, my grandma, first time being
Wow.
back. It was crazy. My grandpa died like 6 months before the Berlin Wall fell down.
Wow.
And my mom was always like, if he could just have held on 7 months. Like, just because he hated Russians.
Right, of course.
He lived by he lived by the Russian consulate in Ottawa, which is officially Russian land, right?
Right.
Or embassy, rather.
Yeah.
It's officially Russian land. So he taught his dog to go through the fence.
I knew it was going to be something
every
like this.
morning. Every morning his dog would take a shit on Russian land.
I love your grandpa.
He loved it. It killed all his friends. Yeah.
I love him. That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's the little things, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But it's so crazy. It's so crazy to think like what had to happen for us to be here. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, for everybody, that goes for everybody, obviously. But then,
Yeah.
especially when you hear these stories, you know, of the war and what people had to do to survive, and what that, like, how you got to have this like comfortable
I literally
life,
wouldn't
you know?
be alive if it weren't for Hitler. I think about
Picasso.
that. And Picasso.
Hitler
That's true.
and Picasso.
Yeah, that's true. That's
so
funny.
one failed painter and
Yeah,
one successful
that's
painter.
Really, wow.
You know,
I'm gonna have an album called Hitler and Picasso.
you're gonna
It's
write
gonna be
a
hard
play.
to Google, but you're gonna show up on a lot of lists if you Google it. But
I wrote a show. My first one woman show was called Hi Hitler, and every single person pretty much that came to see it was like, oh my God, I loved Heil Hitler. It was so good.
Yeah,
I'd be
yeah,
like,
yeah.
that's the point, is that it's not called Heil Hitler.
Yeah.
But people are like, wow, Heil Hitler.
Yeah.
I Googled Heil Hitler. I couldn't find it. I'm like,
Yeah.
it's not Heil Hitler. Stop it.
Yeah. Anyway, I joined some groups. I met some new friends.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of strong
I got an
opinions.
email from a guy who came to see it that thought I should write a sequel called Goodbye Goebbels.
That's funny. That's funny.
It's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
I should have done it. Anyway, wow, that's so insane. That story is so
Yeah,
crazy.
it's crazy. I said that story. I told that joke on a cruise ship, and I got fired for telling it.
I saw that tweet. You
Yeah.
tweeted that, didn't you?
Yeah.
What?
People were just like,
Why?
you shouldn't be talking about Nazis. It's like-
That's so fucking crazy.
Yeah.
What kind of a cruise was it? Was it a
it was a
Holocaust survivor cruise? They were all like, what the fuck are you doing?
yeah. Well, some lady, I guess she complained, just old Jewish lady, and so I knew I was gonna get fired. There's like still 2 days left in the cruise, and I'm like, pardon me, sitting on like the deck on like a lawn chair, and she comes up and she's like, tell me about the, and then I like told her basically that story, and she was like, oh, so you weren't lying? I was like, no. She's like, I'll talk to the cruise director. I'm like, I'm already fired. She's like, no, you won't be. I'm like, you'll see. People are just terrible.
So she thought you made it up.
I
Just
guess
for the joke?
I guess so. Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. But I mean, if you're going to do a cruise, the best way to go out is to get fired.
Yeah, I've also
Wrap
been
that up.
fired from a similar cruise line for saying I think the same cruise line for saying my brother has autism. So.
Right. I forgot to mention at
Yeah.
the top that you have a podcast called Autastic.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
About your brother.
It's
Or
about-
not about your brother,
yeah.
about autism.
Yeah, it's just for like people who like mainly most of our fans are parents who have kids with autism.
Yeah.
Because my partner, my co-host, I don't know why I say partner. We
Partner.
fuck.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
You have to.
That's how podcasts work.
Yeah, exactly. Hello. Everybody knows that.
Yeah. So.
Except Mike and me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You guys, one day you'll
Yeah.
figure out how it works. You'll look online. Oh my God.
Oh, this is what we've been doing wrong. Damn it.
But anyway,
After you fuck, you record a podcast.
Yeah. So
about
his
autism.
son has nonverbal, and my brother is like mid-functioning. So anyway, yeah.
But you talk about that in your comedy a lot, and you talk about, you just said you got fired from the cruise because you talked about your grandfather. And so all that stuff, the immigrant stuff, all the stuff in your life is part of your comedy, right? That's what you make into your subjects.
Yeah. Yeah. You have to, I think.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
For me, it's like I think I look at my first album, and it's like I think that technically is good, but I don't think it's very memorable. It's it's like men's deodorant is named different than women's deodorant. You know, and people are laughing.
Yeah.
But in 5 minutes, you're gonna not think about it.
Yeah.
So I think the more specific you can get in any art is like people remember.
Did you feel when you came here to the great country of America, did you feel a cultural difference, or do you feel that now?
Absolutely.
Do you feel like an immigrant here? It must be weird for Canadians because you can't really tell that you're an immigrant.
There are no two countries more similar except for maybe Austria and Germany. Right?
That aren't that similar.
They aren't that similar?
I think they're very different.
Really?
Yeah.
How so?
I mean, the culture is totally different. The food is different. The people are different.
From the outside, it's the exact same.
Yeah, that's
truly
true.
the same.
But they're very different.
It's kind of like that with us. It's like if you are from Germany looking at Canada and America and you meet two of them, it's like they're the same. We're dressed the same. We eat the same. We're like eating hot dogs. But for a Canadian, it feels very...
Everybody here eats hot dogs. That's what people do in North America.
Shoots a hot dog with a gun.
Yeah, exactly.
But there is like this like weird religion of freedom here, which is very bizarre, which like supersedes common sense a lot of the time, where it's like Canada, it's like our motto is like, I forget what our motto is. So America is like life, liberty, and freedom or something like that. Or it's like something like that. God, liberty, and freedom, something like that. And Canada
I think life, liberty, and freedom. Isn't it? No? Oh.
And then Canada is...
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Oh, the pursuit of happiness.
The pursuit of happiness.
Yeah.
Can you look up the Canadian one? Canadian motto? It's something like good government. It's just...
And free healthcare.
Yeah, it's like make the roads good and the water good.
Logic, reason.
Yeah, shut up.
It says it's from sea to sea.
No.
Mari us God mar.
No.
What?
No.
That's what it says the official Canadian motto is.
No, it's something good government. Look up motto Canadian good government. Anyway, so the thing is like there are little things like that.
Yes.
It's like.
But, yeah, sorry.
What?
That's almost like the difference between America and almost everywhere else, right? You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. There is like a wildness here.
Yes,
it's like
chaos.
It's absolutely chaos.
Yeah, like anarchy, really.
It's all borderline anarchy.
Yeah,
just there are good things that happen out of that and bad things.
Right. Yes.
And it's like some of it's exciting, some of it is scary, and I just find that Americans are very nice. They're a little more warmer than Canadians.
Really?
I think so. I think Canadians they're more polite, probably. But a little. There's something about being cold and staying inside all the time. You're like less open.
Mm-hmm. That's true. Yeah.
I think. I would always say that. I always just say the American dream is like. The American dream is is Trump. It's having like your own private jet made of gold that runs on babies.
that's so true.
And then the Canadian dream is like a 3-story house with a backyard and like 2 BMWs in your 2-car garage, and like go on vacation wherever you want once a year.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe twice a year.
Yeah.
That's the Canadian dream. And then your kids are safe and your grandkids are, fine. Like you don't have to worry about anything.
Yeah.
That's the Canadian dream. And it's like, it creates a more egalitarian society, but also like there's like less crazy highs, less crazy lows.
Yeah.
I also wanted to say like here's the difference. Here's why the difference in Canadian culture and why it's weird for me to be like, I feel like I'm always like a little bit not comfortable in America, even though I have a way bigger leg up than someone from Nigeria is here and everything. It's also my advantage as a comedian. I think American comedy is dominated disproportionately by Black people, Jewish people, and Canadians. And I think that's because you have to have be an outsider looking in who understands the in, understands the inside. Like I grew up watching all the American shows, but I also grew up with the Canadian stuff. So like I have a different perspective, but I can comment on it because I get it.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's also, though, why a lot of kids of immigrants kind of are drawn to comedy or to the arts because from the get-go you grow up with this like outsider perspective or with
That's right. Yeah.
Cross-culturally you're always having to switch between two perspectives, mentalities. If you speak another language, that adds another layer to living in another mentality. A language isn't just words. It's like a whole other world, basically, that you inhabit if you speak another language because it's a different mentality, different way to express yourself.
Yeah, that is something I find really fascinating. Like my French isn't good enough for me to have to code switch. I'm always trying to figure it out from the English Anglophone perspective. But I dated this girl from Japan, she's American, but her dad's Japanese, and she speaks fluent Japanese and went to school, and in Japan, she has said, I am a different person.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And I was like, whoa.
Definitely. I'm a different
my personality
person.
is different.
Yes, I'm a different person in German, for sure.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
What's it
definitely. Like a total asshole.
Really?
No, I think the voice is also different.
Really?
Like, wenn ich Deutsch spreche, my voice goes like down a little bit.
Yeah, her voice goes up when she speaks Japanese.
And just the way, because the way to express, you think differently. So you have to be a different person. Do you know what I mean? Like the way you express yourself, you can't be as quick in German. It's not like as quick of short of a language. Like English is very short and kind of punchy, and German is more like poetic and complicated and a little more heady. Yeah. And you can be very witty, but it's kind of everything. You're a little more serious, I guess. In German.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
It's so funny how language makes you. That person.
Yeah,
that
exactly.
Culture.
It's crazy.
It's like no one really has their own personality. We're all just going along. Like
exactly.
the noises, like you can't be like flippant and witty and backhanded when you're like that forces you to be like German cars are so good.
Yeah.
You can't because the way they talk.
Yeah, exactly.
Japanese cars are so good because of the way they talk.
Well, I have a joke about that because in German, nipple is Brustwarze, which means breastwort, and pubic hair is Schamhaare, which means shame hair, and sexual intercourse is Geschlechtsverkehr, which literally means gender traffic. So I'm always like, now you guys know why Germans make the best cars. Yeah. No one's going home to fuck, you know? And people are like, nein, not the breastwarts. I will stay in the office and make more cars.
Gender traffic with you.
Nein.
It's also could be any gender, which is nice.
But it's like, then if
Yeah.
you think about, because people are always like, oh, German is so harsh and this, that. It's actually such a beautiful language. And it's not a coincidence that a lot of like thinkers and philosophers and, these people came from Germany or Austria, because the German language, you can have a sentence that's like 3 pages long because you can start with one thought and then explore all these like branches of the thought within the same thought. You don't have to end the thought on paper. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that makes for like a different way to think about things, and it's like you have to kind of philosophize in German by default. You know what I mean? Like you in English you would have to make like 10 sentences out of something that in German is just one thought.
Really?
Basically. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it's really interesting, and it can get very complicated. And you can make up words, which is really cool.
Are there more German poets? Because you don't, it's funny you have that skill, but no one wants to do poetry. They just want to make cars. What is gender traffic if it's two gay people?
It's still gender traffic.
Gender traffic.
Why would it be different for gay people?
Gender log
Gender
jam.
musical. Log jam. Gender traffic.
Gender log jam. Two trans people. Gender HOA lane. Very new. Only cars that run on electricity can go in it.
But the good
or
thing
3 or
is-
more.
And you can go as fast as you want,
it.
as everybody knows.
Yeah. An orgy is a gender HOA lane.
Yeah, exactly. But
3 or
what's also
more.
funny is that people outside of Germany always imitate Germans like this, like you just did now. But no German really talks like that. That's way too emotional. You know, the German actually, the accent is like this. It's
Right.
very monotonous, and it doesn't have these things that Dida did on SNL,
Right.
you know.
Yeah.
It's like very boring, but
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
wouldn't be very fun to put in movies and stuff, you know.
Yeah.
So that's
that's
why-
pretty funny what you're doing. I like that. It's so funny how, it's like you have one thing that, like one piece of comedy that basically dictated how everyone does a German
Yeah,
accent.
right.
And I'm trying to think of like when Americans do a Canadian accent, it's so, no one talks like that.
Yeah, of course not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like someone in Wisconsin had a stroke.
Do you find yourself drawn to people with accents and stuff because you grew up around people with accents?
No, I find them dirty. No, maybe. I think I find myself. It's funny you mentioned that. Most of my friends are first generation or second generation. They're
Yeah,
like grew up with
exactly.
immigrant parents and
See,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
what I
yeah.
mean. I figured that out. Like at one point in my life, I was like, oh, I always date guys with accents.
Yeah.
I guess
Tom.
except now. Yeah.
Well, he's.
First one with that. But his parents are immigrants.
I mean, yeah, he's like code switching. You could tell he's
yeah, and
identifying.
he's from Florida too.
Yeah,
so that's
right,
you might as
yeah.
well.
That's right. There's
know?
like 3
Yeah.
awful things happen. No, I'm
But
kidding.
and then all my friends, and I realized that because my grandma had a very thick accent in German. She was Romanian, and she was around a lot when I was a kid. And I realized at some point, like, oh, I feel really comfortable. I feel like a sense of familiarity when someone has an accent or is an immigrant, that I don't even realize. Do you remember a moment when you came here where you were like, fuck, okay, this is not my, like a moment or an experience that you had where that was like quintessentially American for you?
I mean, I think one of the reasons why I moved back to New York, I used to live in LA, is I felt like LA, I was too far behind enemy lines.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah, I
it's
get
so
that.
American.
It's so American.
It's so far away from what I know.
Yes.
New York is a little like Eastern. It's like a little more European, a little more, I don't know, we're outward looking to the world. And a lot of America is very looking at themselves, which, I'm not judging, because I think any country would be if they were the most powerful country in the world for
Right.
almost 100 years.
Yeah.
It just would happen to anyone. So I don't think it's like they're wrong or bad. It's just like something that's very unfamiliar to me. So I just had a lot of trouble out there. Like I felt like I was upside down the whole time. Yeah, I don't know. Also, I was an undocumented worker in New York when I first started comedy for 5 years, and that made me feel like an outsider.
You didn't have papers?
No.
Oh.
No.
So you went back and forth, or did you overstay?
Every 6 months, I would go back and forth because we're allowed a 6-month work visa.
Yeah.
But we'd have to smuggle myself across the border.
Yeah.
And pretend that my parents.
And
would
you're
drive.
very tall. So
yes, it was tough. It was tough. Yeah, I don't know exactly what it's like to be a Mexican because they, had to like go through like a wheel well of a truck. Or go through a desert. I went in my mom's Ford Windstar minivan.
So your mom would drive you every single time?
Yeah, we would bring golf clubs in the summer and skis in the winter, and we'd say we were going skiing or golfing.
And you would hide in the trunk?
No.
Oh, okay.
I would sit in the passenger seat.
Okay. I was like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah. And the reason why we would drive is because they wouldn't stamp your passport.
Oh my God.
So I never technically did anything illegal other than
you should now hide in the trunk.
What I'm about to say is purely for art, and it's a joke and it's not true.
No.
But I definitely would work under the table at restaurants.
Yeah, of course. I did that too.
All my friends were like undocumented people from around the world.
Right.
Like back then.
Yeah.
And then obviously comedians. And I have to throw out my check.
Actively get punished. You'd have to throw out your check?
Yes, because you couldn't cash my check.
Why?
Because I didn't have a social.
Oh,
I wrote down
how
like
would
1,
you
2,
get
3,
the
4,
money?
5, 6. I would just get tips.
Oh, right, because that. Okay.
I had to work in jobs that paid by cash.
Cash. Okay,
Yeah.
got it.
Wow.
And
then I got arrested and I had to leave.
Really?
Yeah.
You got arrested?
Yeah, for technically for hitting a police officer.
Okay.
But
you got too comfortable. You felt too American.
Yeah.
You're like, this is what you're supposed to do
white.
here, right?
It's fine.
Exactly. Come here, you.
No, they attacked us from behind. I was I was doing graffiti. I was making fun of my friend I was with who was actually doing graffiti. I was making fun of them for doing graffiti because it's ridiculous.
Agreed.
And I was showing them my tag from 9th grade. And then cops were watching us, and this is like 3 a.m., and attacked us from behind. And I didn't know what was happening.
Attacked you from behind?
Yeah.
Like jumped on you?
Yeah, beat us up. And then then they called my brother. They called my family to get me out, but my brother picked up.
Oh, shit.
And he's autistic. So I was just in jail for like 4 days. And then I was like, it was getting pretty hairy, so I had to leave. I had a Conan audition I couldn't take. It was illegal for me to do Conan, so I had to leave.
So you didn't get deported. You left on your own.
I left because I knew that if I stayed, I wouldn't be able to get a green card. So it took me. I had to move back to Canada, start comedy again, be an open micer again, and
so you kind of had a mini experience of what your grandfather went through.
That's right. I took immigrate back to Canada. And no one knew who I was, and it took me 3.5 years to get a performing arts visa, and I moved to LA. And then I got a green card and moved to New York.
See, you people listening, what people have to do to be in this fucking country.
And it took me, I had to hire a lawyer.
Yeah.
It cost me
$14,000?
$14,000. I took out a loan from the bank. It took me like years to pay it off. And I had no money when I was in LA because all my money was tied up in debt for the legal fees. I was like the most stressful time of my life. I couldn't sleep at night because I didn't know how I was going to like literally eat and like pay rent.
So how did you do it?
Sucking off ladyboys for a camera. No, I would go back to Canada a lot and work and do comedy there. And they would pay me Canadian dollars, and then I would transfer it back to American and pay my rent in that, and I would lose 30% of the money.
That sucks.
So I was just basically, I'm in my
A normal American.
I bought 2 cars in the 2 years I lived in LA, and the total amount for those 2 cars that I bought was $4,200. And I was just like, some days I couldn't drive my car because there was no gas, and yeah.
But it was worth it. Do you love it here? Do you feel at home here?
In New York, I do. I really love New York. I like.
What do you love about it?
There is like an excitement about America, and the biggest, baddest city in America that is intoxicating, and there is like a limitless here. Like in Canada has a lot of opportunities unless you're in show business. There are opportunities in show business, more so than there used to be, but there's still only like 30 jobs. And here you can, like our friend Mike and our friend Steph Tolev got big, very funny comic, got big on TikTok. Also Canadian, moved to LA and got big online, and put in the hard work in LA, and now she's like selling out theaters and walks down the street, people recognize her and stuff. And I just even think the algorithm wouldn't help you that much if you were in Canada. Like, it's just like they would stick to Canada. I don't know. It's just like, where do you go with that? You can't go to America because it's illegal for you to sell out a show in America.
Papers,
You're not allowed to go. If you're a famous comedian in Canada, you can't go to an American city and sell out a theater.
Right, unless you have papers.
Proper, which takes like years and years and years and thousands of dollars in legal fees.
Really hard to get because you have to.
You can't just do it.
Right, because you have to prove that you're this extraordinary person that is not taking anybody's jobs away.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah. You have to prove to the American government you're so funny that you won't be on welfare. And imagine all the steps that would take.
Right.
And then you spend all the money, and then your file lands on some 25-year-old who just graduated his desk and works for the government. They might be a right-wing zealot. They might not be. And it's up to their discretion whether they give you a green card or not. And even if they say no, you still already paid your lawyer $14,000.
Of course.
So then you just have to like
suck it up.
Suck it up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then I think there's also this aspect of New York.
The answer is yes, it is. It
was worth it.
Yeah. I do feel like I can do all my failures or I can't blame my failures on anyone but me. I can't be like, well, it's because I can't. Like when a lot of Canadian comics, they're like, their default to why they're not doing well is because of the lack of Canadian showbiz. Because English Canada has less showbiz than it should because we have such a similar culture to America that we import everything.
Right.
So Australia doesn't import anything. They make their own shows because they have their own accent.
Yeah.
England, makes South Africa, like all these other countries of similar size make their own stuff.
Right.
We don't. We make 2 shows a year.
Really?
Yeah. French Canada, they make their own stars because they can't import stuff from France because their French is different. It's like the difference between Alabama and England.
Right.
So it's like, I don't know. So we gotta move here.
Right.
But then I get to live in New York, which is dope.
Yeah, and there's this aspect of New York where all the people that feel like outsiders for whatever reason, whether they're immigrants or just internal outsiders, come here, and it's like this big house that collects all the weirdos and misfits, right?
Exactly. Yeah. I love that part.
So yeah, Graham, I always ask my guests if they have any sayings or expressions or anything that they grew up with. You said you had something.
Mike, let's go outside, drop the mitts. Let's take our tarps off and do it up, bud. I'm going to tune you up.
Tune you up means I'm going to beat you up?
Take our tarps off.
Tarps off?
Yeah. Shirts off.
Shirts. Oh.
Yeah, drop
tarps,
your mitts.
It means tops, but you pronounce it tarps?
No.
Oh, it means Tarp.
In hockey, like the jerseys are big.
Oh, it's a
so
hockey
So
thing.
it's like a tarp.
When you
tarp
say
is
hockey-
a big tarp means like a big
Blanket.
sheet of like plastic
Yeah.
or something you put over a boat
Right.
or whatever.
When you say hockey, do you mean ice hockey or regular hockey?
There is no other kind of hockey.
See, this is what people say to me. But in Germany, where I come from,
In America,
when
they
we-
say ice hockey, and it is
no.
grating.
People made fun of me.
Yeah.
Made fun of me here for saying ice hockey. They're like, "What are you talking about? It's hockey. Ice hockey is hockey." And if you're not
Wow.
talking about ice hockey, you have to say field hockey.
Wow.
But in Germany, hockey
Yeah,
is field hockey,
Right,
and then
right.
you have to say ice hockey.
right. Well, my experience in America has been everyone says ice hockey.
Interesting.
I think that's maybe the number one reason why I left LA is they say ice hockey more often there.
But they'd say ice hockey.
Ice hockey? You mean like ice hockey? Yuck.
Die. Okay.
One Canadian thing that I love is instead of saying Jesus Christ, everyone goes Jesus Murphy. It's like what dads say,
What?
and I just love it.
Where does that come from?
I
What's
don't
the
know.
Murphy?
I don't know.
Wow.
Instead of saying like, I guess you'll go to hell if you use the Lord's name in
Jesus
vain.
Murphy.
I just love it. Jesus Murphy. Such a fun.
So Canadian.
Yeah.
You like immediately see this man in like this knitted sweater. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You see like a car go around the corner on ice and slam into a stop sign. You're just drinking your cup of Joe on your porch. Jesus Murphy.
And then it cuts to a moose just going like this,
Oh, Barbara.
shaking his head.
Yeah. Good one is goof.
Goof?
Yeah.
That's an insult?
It's it means
To be a goof?
Yeah, it means you're in jail. It's what they call pedophiles in jail. So if you call someone a goof, it means you're
Very
a pedophile.
specific. You
Yeah.
must have a lot of pedophiles that you have a word for that. Pedophiles in jail who have a certain type of mustache and like
Basically, you're a pedophile
Cake.
if you're a goof.
a goof, really. So
yeah.
somebody's, because here we say
You're a goofy
you're a
guy.
goof.
I know.
Such a goof.
Yeah, in Canada it means
No?
something very different.
Pedophile.
Yeah.
Wow.
Straight up pedo, bud. Yeah.
Okay, noted. Okay, now, Graham K., it is the very witching hour of the day where we must play the poll questionnaire. A little questionnaire to find out how much of an immigrant you really are. No,
Okay.
that's not true, but are you ready for the poll questionnaire?
Yeah.
Graham K., if you were the president of the United States of America, what American food would you ban?
Oh boy, that's a good one. That Thanksgiving dish that has marshmallows on it.
Sweet potatoes.
Pie I like sweet potato pie. There's it's got melted marshmallows on the top.
Isn't that
Sweet potato souffle.
sweet?
Sweet potato souffle.
Souffle?
Yeah.
What? I've never heard of that.
It's very French.
That is very French. Who has ever said souffle?
It's either souffle or casserole, depending
Casserole.
on where you're
Casserole.
Right.
But it is a sweet potato thing because I was in Florida for Thanksgiving and I made sweet potatoes because I don't eat meat. And they were like, oh, you got to put marshmallows on it. And I was like, no, you don't understand.
No,
I'm
that's
from
poison.
Europe. Yeah, exactly. We don't
Yeah,
do
this
that.
is already good.
Yeah.
Sweet potato pie,
This is
though. I had my
already good.
first sweet potato pie.
You did?
It's very good.
Okay. If you could eat one American person, who would you eat?
Eat one American person.
Yeah.
Ooh, who looks delicious? I'm not going to say something perverted.
Okay, good. You goof.
That's a tough one. I mean, I'm trying to think of someone who looks delicious. Eat somebody who, oh my God, Chris Hemsworth. Yum yum yum.
Oh, wow. And he's not even American.
He's not.
He's Australian, isn't
Damn.
he? And also, really, that's too much muscle. It would be
Yeah.
like tough to eat that.
Yeah. Who's that? The guy with the spiky hair with the flame shirts.
Oh, Guy Fieri.
I think Guy Fieri.
Guy Fieri. Yes.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah, that's good. He's got a little belly and
A little
stuff.
belly, then
And he eats all the time.
they'll be spicy.
Yeah.
Maybe there's some residual sloppy Joe in his
Roast
colon.
beef, I was going to say,
Yeah,
but
sure.
sloppy Joe is
Yeah.
even better. Okay, yeah, I like it. Very good, very good. What's the most Canadian thing you've ever done?
Oh my God. I tried to explain to somebody who just moved here from the South how to wear their scarf. and that you should zip up your jacket before you go outside in the winter.
Okay, I like it.
It blows my mind. People will have their jacket open here
Yeah.
in the winter, be standing on a street corner and be like, "It's so cold.
Yeah.
I'm freezing." Your jacket's open. You just wouldn't see that in Canada.
No,
It's crazy.
they know what they're doing there when
Yeah,
it comes
yeah,
to the
yeah,
cold. Yeah, that's so funny. What's the most American thing you've ever done?
I listened to the Ottawa, not the Ottawa 6 o'clock news on the radio, and then the top headline. It was like the news at 6. We're just driving in the car with my parents, and the first thing was, "A man fell from a ladder today," and I laughed so hard. And my parents were like, "What? What's so funny?" I was like, I don't fit in here anymore.
You're like, that's cute.
It's cute.
Problem.
It is cute.
Where are the mass shootings?
But it's, come on, do something. Because it also is like, there's not enough going on, Do something exciting.
Somebody
no one's doing
drink some acid.
anything dangerous here. No one's doing anything exciting.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, I love it. If you could add one face to Mount Rushmore, whose face would you add?
Oh, boy. Guy Fieri. We need some flame
After you eat
shirts
him.
on there.
I
And
love
some
it. I love it.
spikes.
He is a very quintessentially American person.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, he really embodies, like, he
Yeah.
yells for no reason.
Yeah.
He's excited.
Yeah.
He has those sunglasses.
On the back of his neck.
Yeah, exactly.
So people can't attack him.
Okay, 2 more questions. If you could add one amendment to the U.S. Constitution, what would you add?
My amendment to the Constitution would be that man, that's a tough one. I'm like, I just feel like maybe I think that there should be only 4 mass shootings allowed a year, and then no one is allowed to have a gun for the rest of the year.
Solid amendment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then the NRA will be like,
Okay.
all right, guys, if your 18-year-old son, keeps saying he's going to kill everybody, take away his gun, maybe.
Yeah. Or
Maybe we should do some more checks on crazy people. Maybe we should,
yeah.
Yeah. I think 4 is a nice amount of mass shootings.
4 is good.
Don't
It's
you
an
think?
even number.
Yeah.
Yeah. You could have 1 per quarter of the year.
Maybe 3. 3 strikes, you're out. That's more
3
American.
strikes, you're out? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So 1 in January, 1 in the summer, and then before
Yeah,
the
but
holidays.
if you use them up by February, which they will, oh, they will.
True.
Then the rest of
Then
the year
you're
is
done.
safe.
Yeah. Right. I like it. I love it. Vote for Graham K for president, everybody. Last question, Graham. Probably the most important question I ask people on this podcast. Graham K, do you know how I can meet David Hasselhoff?
I think you just have to DM him.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
look at that guy. That guy will take your DM.
You think he will?
Yeah. Well, I think you just have DM him, and you have to. When you want something from somebody, you have to offer them something.
What would you offer?
Bootcut jeans.
Okay, great.
Some True Religion jeans.
Yeah. Bedazzled, maybe?
Yeah, bedazzled.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good idea. So you would say, hi, I'm Lucie. I really want to meet you, and I'm ready to send you, or I'll bring.
I have some dead stock True Religion bootcut jeans.
that
in
I'll
my
bring to the meeting.
Yeah, and he'll be like, ooh, that'll make me look young.
Okay, I love that.
Yeah.
Very good idea. Okay. One of the best answers we've gotten to that question. Graham K, where can people find you on the social media?
You can find me at Mr. Graham K on Instagram and Twitter, and OK Graham K. So Graham is spelt like the cracker. People in America have a lot of trouble with my name.
Do they really?
I know a lot of people.
How's it supposed to be
immigrants
spelled?
are like, well, my name is, whatever, from a different language, and that is worse. But mine is so close to being normal that people don't, and I'm so white with barely any accent that people go like, Greg.
Oh.
9 out of 10 times. I will say this. I have not once in my life in America has an American got my name right the first time in a service industry.
Really?
My name is Graham, Graham, Graham. My last name is Kay. 10 out of 10 times, if I sign into something at a front desk, the person will write first name K, last name Graham. 10 out of 10 times.
Huh.
Like my first name is Kay, like I'm like a housewife from 1956. And then I live in a Dominican neighborhood called Graham Avenue.
You actually live on Graham Avenue?
That's my subway stop. I don't live
really
on
funny.
Graham Avenue, but I live on Graham Avenue, and I can't say my name when I want to order coffee because they won't know what I'm saying.
What do you say?
I say, they go like, what's your name? I'll be like, Graham. And they'll be like, what? I'll be Graham, like the street. And they go, oh. I go, Graham. They go, what? I go, Graham, like that street we're on. And they go, oh, Graham. And I saw this like TikTok video of like this lady, this teacher, this white teacher in this white lady in like Bushwick or Brooklyn, and she's like, white people, it's called Graham. They own the word, all right? You can't be saying Graham, okay? And I'm like, what if my name is Graham? I can't say my own name anymore when I walk down the street?
What? Why is it Graham? I've never heard this
Because
ever.
Dominican people can't say...
Oh, okay,
They can't say Graham.
What?
Their mouths don't do it.
Graham.
But also, Graham is not a name in America.
I'm just picturing you being like, hi, could I have a latte with soy milk? What's the name? Yeah, it's Graham.
It's Graham.
How much is it?
Yeah. I need my grandma to come back to life and order coffee for me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Wow, that's crazy. Graham K, thank you so much for being on the podcast. Everybody out there listening, go and watch Graham, aka Graham K's special it's on YouTube, right?
Yeah, I want to. Yeah, definitely. I'm very proud of it. Watch it. I don't know why I'm stalling right now. My brain,
it's good.
Just watch my comedy special, guys. It's on YouTube. It's called Graham K Live in a Bowling Alley. Very proud of it. Self-produced, and share it with your friends if you like. That's how we get this word around, and we take the power away from the evil Netflix. You know what I mean?
Exactly. And it's on your YouTube channel, which is Graham K.
Graham K Comedy. YouTube.com/Graham K Comedy.
Okay. Go out and watch it right now. Click the like button, put a comment, subscribe. Go ahead.
Also, I'm going to be doing shows in Dallas coming up. Oh, wait, this is going to be after that. But I am going to be doing shows in Toronto and Ottawa in late December. So find tickets at grahamk.com.
Yes, find those tickets, watch everything, follow Graham to the moon and back. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much
for being here and sharing your wonderfulness with us. This has been another amazing episode of Immigrant Jam, the podcast. Thank you to Mike Albanese, the best in the biz. Thank you to Douchebag Steve. one of our patrons. Yeah. And Craig. Yeah. We love you. We love you so much. If you like this podcast, give us a little rating and a review. It helps so much on iTunes. Thank you so much for listening. Check out the Patreon. And we love you. Goodbye. If you liked what you just heard, don't forget to rate, review, subscribe, recommend to all your friends. And if you hated it, recommend it to your enemies. Thank you for listening to Immigrant Jam, the podcast with me, Lucie Pohl. Have a delicious and nutritious day.